Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome along, gentlemen. How are you?
Welcome. Pretty good.
Awesome.
Great. Excellent.
Thank you for popping in the studio. We're joined here today on Lifestyle Pirates with Dan and Adrian, so co-founders of the Rising Sun Workshop. Now, this is actually Sydney's first communal. Anyway, we've not even started this wine yet. Sydney's first communal motorcycle workshop and restaurant. That's a mouthful. Gents, thanks for coming along. Talk to us about that. How did that come about?
It came about 7 years ago. It's about 7 years ago.
Shit.
So a long time ago, Dan and I were toying with the idea of starting a music-based hospitality venue. And we quickly realised that musicians don't have any money, so that's a good way to send yourself broke. So we parked that, and then I became addicted to motorcycles, and I came across several ideas online from overseas around these communal spaces, and one in particular was based in Vancouver. I think they were called Motor Method, and it was basically a garage, and they started opening up to their customers to come and work during lunchtime, during the day. They come in, put in some overalls, and they'd be from all walks of life. But the thing that really got me was they made a tradition or a habit of sitting down and sharing lunch together around a big communal table. They'd all bring their own food. They'd sit down and share a meal together. And I liked the idea of how they were working with their hands, and people who were lawyers, doctors, any walk of life were learning these new hard skills on top of their soft skills. And I was really drawn to the idea, and then I wanted to bring the idea of a communal motorcycle workshop to Australia, but financially I couldn't make it work given how expensive real estate is, and wanted it to be accessible to any sort of income bracket, as opposed to just people who had that, high level disposable income. So I kind of looped back in with Dan and was toying with the idea of how do we bring hospitality into this and subsidize the space until there is some critical mass where it can hold its own. And I've always been in different industries, not in hospitality, and I like the idea of the interaction with people. I've been in corporate for a long time, and I found that when I joined corporate, I was very verbose and very out there and outspoken. And over time, I've kind of toned it down to fit into the corporate lifestyle. I'm still probably a little bit out there, not compared to some other people, but
Don't know what you mean.
I've probably toned it down a little bit. So I wanted to get back into building, interacting with people and so on and so forth. So we started to toy with the idea, worked out a business plan, and we just couldn't get it off the ground. We couldn't make it work financially. It was too hard to get the money together and pull together the rubles. So we crowdfunded, and now we kicked the ball and we crowdfunded. We raised 40 grand in 3 months, did a pop-up, been to council 400,000 times, spent 6 figures on fighting councils and getting them on board. And we finally opened Newtown 4 years ago, and we've been humming ever since. We've got a great community, both in the hospitality scene and in the motorcycle scene. And everything's been, although, ups and downs, all in all, an upwards trajectory, and it's been a really great experience.
Awesome.
Still chasing the ball.
Still chasing the ball.
Still chasing the ball. Well,
So what's the concept behind Rising Sun Workshop?
So the concept is we are a communal motorcycle workshop space. For a membership, you get access to the space and the community and the tools that we have on hand. And you can come in and do what you know, or you can learn.
Yep.
So the interesting thing coming from the country, which is where I grew up, was when I came to Sydney, I noticed that in garages where I grew up, everyone had a big kit of tools and everyone knew what they were doing to some extent. And then when I came to Sydney and so in a previous life, I was a musician, and I'd go play gigs with my fellow bandmates, and quite regularly bandmates would be late because they got a flat tire. It's like, well, you just got a flat tire, you change it. It's like,
Fix it.
I don't know how to. I had to wait for the NRMA to come. And it became apparent to me that it's just not a common skill, right? So what we've found since opening is that people have this skills amnesia. So they come in to learn the basics, lefty loosey, righty tighty. We show them how to change a tire, show them how to change their oil, check their brakes. And so originally we thought it'd be more people who wanted to do custom builds, but actually I'd probably say 80% of our customer base are doing servicing, basic maintenance, and then you've got about 20% who are getting into customization, and then a very few people getting into full builds.
Did you write down lefty loosey, righty tighty for your workshop?
Yeah, I remember that from TAFE. That's a good one.
And how did you guys come to meet?
We're
Through love.
yeah.
That's so nice.
Brother-in-laws.
Ah,
pretty
right,
much,
okay.
yeah.
Ah, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, Dan, you brought along a bottle of wine that we're kind of sipping away out here. What's the story with this?
Since we started Rising Sun, I moved from coffee more into wine. Did a little trip down to South Australia and met Michael Corbett, who does this amazing Grenache from Billet Springs. And yeah, so this is his new release. He just got 97 points from the Wine Front from Gary Walsh and Mike Benny. It's delicious. More people should buy his wine.
Yeah, well done, Michael. I think we've got a few bottles knocking around there somewhere as well. Tell us about the food. I know this is kind of, you're famous for a ramen.
Yep.
There's 3 different kinds of ramen. I didn't know what a ramen was actually until I met you. Why the Japanese fusion?
I think we did something, we wanted to do something different and something that wasn't in Newtown when we did the pop-up. And then like Nick and I kind of love Japanese food, and we were eating that while we were thinking about what we were going to make. And yeah, Nick was like, let's make ramen. Yeah. So it kind of, we're stuck with it now, but it's a good thing. People love it. We're not authentic. If you want to, a lot of people come in and be like, it's not what it's like in Japan and all that kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah. That's great. That's exactly what it's meant to be. Yeah. It's Newtown ramen.
Because we're not in Japan, so it shouldn't taste like that.
Exactly.
Right?
It's a terroir of Australia and a workshop.
Yeah.
So we did a pop-up before we opened Newtown. And so the crowdfunding was to sell the idea of the communal motorcycle space. But we wanted to then introduce the food. So we made it very clear that the money that we raised for crowdfunding was going to the workshop. It wasn't going to setting up a hospitality business.
Yep.
But we hadn't spoken much about the food. So when we did the pop-up, there was a great opportunity to introduce the idea of a shared space and start to introduce Nick and Dan as our culinary experts and our kind of driving the direction we're going in. And so the guys spent a lot of time trying to work out how do we, because the pop-up obviously you don't want to invest too much time or money into the fit out or the setup because,
it's overhead for no reason. Yeah.
Exactly. You're going to be getting rid of it. So we did. So my wife, who's one of the partners and founders, she's an architect. So she designed a removable fit out that we put into the space. And we've got some really good photos on our Instagram and on our website. But equally, it was in an art gallery in Newtown. So there was a kitchenette and we had to try and expand on a kitchenette to make a kitchen.
I kind of forgot about that.
So
we had gas burner, like barbecue
gas rings.
Little portable ones.
Gas burners.
Yep. And so we were looking at, we didn't want to invest in a big staff outlay as well. So what could we do between, it was basically Nick, Dan and I, and then a few other hands coming in casually to support us.
Yeah.
What could we do at scale that had some kind of, that made sense and resonated, and we'd already come to the name of Rising Sun Workshop, obviously. So that's when they said, let's do ramen because we can do it on scale. Because you do big pots of broth. We've got a famous photo of Dan sitting in one of the pots. They're that big, like you can squeeze him into a pot.
Was it full of ramen?
That was full of Dan. and after the pop up, I think Nick, more so than anyone else, but I think Nick wanted to let go of the ramen.
Yeah.
And he started toying with the idea and letting people know I'm thinking about not bringing ramen into the new space. And everyone's like, you're a fucking idiot. You can't do that. So the ramen has stayed. And rightly so. I think it's great.
So how do you choose a menu for a shop? Like, I don't know. I'm come from the automotive background, so I don't know. How would you go about choosing a menu?
I outsource it. I don't have any input at all.
Yeah.
Well, if you were doing it again, if I was doing it again, I guess with looking back, and if we were going to do it again, I would look at what was going on in that area, which is kind of what we did. But then,
What, to see what sort of competition you had, or to see what everyone else
not
was
the
doing, or-
competition, just what that community needed,
Yeah.
and that
Okay.
kind of stuff. But also, you just got to make what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're making something that you don't enjoy doing,
It's going to be shit house.
it's going to be
Yeah. So you guys famous for a ramen, correct? The motor oil ramen, or am I saying it wrong? Tell me about this. Someone told me about this today.
I could
The
slap you
darker
right
than
now.
darkness.
I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
slap you right now.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I was going to say what weight is the oil, but yeah.
So we did. It was with Google. We did a little collab. No. It was with
Originally, it was just with Young Henry's.
originally with Young Henry's. They were releasing their motorcycle oil beer,
Yeah.
and we love them. They love us, and we're like, let's make a ramen that goes with that beer and launch that together. And being a black beer, a dark porter, heavy porter, Nick came up with the idea of doing a
Squid ink,
yeah
black pudding.
charcoal noodles, had squid ink in the broth, black pudding. Everything was black except for this white egg that was in there. And it looks amazing. Doesn't photograph very well, but it looks great. And yeah, it was a hit. Everybody loved it. It was because you don't see stuff like that in the ramen world.
Yeah. So is ramen very sort of strict of guidelines? Because I'd imagine the Japanese would be like, nah, you got to make ramen, you got to make it this way, this way.
It is like that,
Yeah.
but each town in Japan has its own style.
Okay.
So
Most people talk about this idea of traditional or authentic ramen, and this is where I think we're very fortunate to have Nick as part of our business, and to find him when we did, and to be able to collaborate and work with someone with a mind like his. He is he has a diverse history and story of his own, but he's very intelligent, and he gets into the nuts and bolts of anything that he does. And so when they were talking about doing ramen, he got this great book from Japan, and it talks through the provinces of ramen through Japan, and what he came to realize is that there's 200 something different provinces in Japan, and everyone has their own type of broth. And then every chef in that province has their own take on it anyway, right? But the only thing that's my understanding, the only thing that's traditional about ramen is the assembly, right? So there's the tare, the broth, the noodles, and the toppings. But then every chef in each of those 200 provinces has their own version of it anyway. So when someone says, that's not authentic or that's not traditional, it's like, well, I'd challenge you to tell me what is.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? Yeah, just because you go to Ippudo and they make a tonkotsu, all of a sudden you're an expert.
Yeah.
So it's, so it's very funny to see people talk about, the ramen's okay, but it's not authentic. And you go, but there is no authentic, ours. And so Nick's idea was to try and make Newtown the 201st or the next province outside of Japan for having its style of ramen. And so we've got the Rising Sun Workshop styles. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And you've actually always been, so you would say you were from corporate originally, but Dan, you've actually always been in hospitality, is that right?
yeah, from when I was 16, I think, was my first hospital job.
Yeah.
And then, it's always, I think I worked at Target for like 2 weeks.
How was that?
I left in 2 weeks. So stacking shelves. I was out of there.
What keeps you in hospitality?
I think just the interaction with people, making someone's day, like making coffee for someone and talking to them for 2 minutes and just making their day for that 2 minutes. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
I find that a lot of the people that in the restaurants we go to and coffee shops, they're in hospitality mainly because they just love the interaction.
Yeah.
And engaging, and normally just showcasing their food, their hospitality, you know, even if they're the owner or the som or front of house or whatever. So I can imagine COVID has been an interesting. Well, we can't not talk about it. I can imagine that's been quite an interesting few months for you guys.
Yeah, we went on a huge roller coaster ride. From being told it was okay, and then to okay, you can have 30 people in your restaurant. Okay, you can have 10 people in your restaurant. You got to do takeaway only. And then for us, we didn't do, ramen one for one doesn't travel very well. So we never did a takeaway. the only thing we were really doing takeaway were like coffee and cakes and like the odd bacon and egg roll and stuff. So we had to turn all that around, and we had an amazing team behind us who helped us do that. So Brad and Beck and all the other staff that are there would just put their hands up and said, we'll get on bikes and we'll deliver and we'll work out the packaging and we'll make it happen, which was great because it kept them in the job as well. So I don't think we lost any staff during all of it. Maybe one or two that were like wanted to go back home to their families and stay with them. But yeah, it's been a huge roller coaster.
Any kind of learnings or takeouts from it?
Yeah.
You need more than luck.
Yeah.
So it was a massive roller coaster. It was, I think of all industries, and many industries have been impacted significantly by this pandemic, but hospitality, I think there is a stigma to that industry. I think some people see it as being primarily transient, but equally there's just as many people who have a career in hospitality. And so they add a lot of value to the community. And I think historically it's been taken for granted. And you can see that in just the way that people talk about things like the price of a meal. And so when COVID came along, we had to basically overnight pivot our entire business, and we had consciously not used Deliveroo or Uber or any of those home delivery services because we think they're not contributing to the industry in the way that they price gouge. And also we've worked really hard to create a venue where there's an experience. And so overnight that was taken away. Yeah. And so then you go, well, fine, we need to try and get onto one of these delivery services, but everyone's doing the same thing. So we couldn't get on. Yeah. But I come back to it's more hard work than luck, is that we'd spent 4 years engaging with our community, embedding ourselves. Newtown is I think it's very unique compared to other areas of Sydney because we see other hospitality venues as collaborators and as part of our peer group as opposed to competition. We're cognizant of the fact that someone's not going to dine with you 7 nights a week. Yeah. But if they come with you one night a week and then they go down to Bloodwood another night of the week and they go to Mary's another night of the week, then we're keeping the money in Newtown and we're keeping our community vibrant and active and safe and all of those things. So we'd spent 4 years really working hard to do that, and equally on the motorcycle side, and equally we've spent a lot of time trying to build these valuable relationships with our staff as well. So when shit hit the fan, we did have to have some very tough conversations, and they weren't pleasant for anyone.
Yeah, I think that was
internally.
That was some of the hardest phone calls I've made. Telling staff that there was no work, and some of the kitchen hands and the guys in the kitchen that this is all they got, and then saying, as of tomorrow, there's no work. But if you need anything, come and grab some food. Come in, grab whatever you need, and we'll look after you. I think Beck and I we split the staff in half and said, I'll call these people, you call these people. I think I got all the hard ones, but that's part of the job.
What were some of their? Because I think everybody was learning really quickly and absorbing, and there was so much information coming out, especially in your world, where, to your point, everything kind of changed pretty much overnight. It went down to certain sittings and certain times, then then got relaxed like this. It must have been just like logistics for you for juggling balls. I mean, how were some of the conversations? Because the sense I'm getting from you guys is it's very community, very family. Whether it's in the restaurant or actually in Newtown as well. So that must have been pretty painful for everyone involved.
I think the hardest is with the staff, right? Because you're looked at as the owner, so therefore you have all the answers. And it's and your obligation as an owner or a leader is you take none of the credit and all of the blame.
Yep.
And then when this thing's evolving and there is no precedent and there is no playbook, and there's legislative things in play that have been put through a press release, but no one knows how it works yet. Yeah. And then you're the person who has to try and sell that story without even knowing what's going to happen. Yeah. It does. I think that becomes a massive friction point. and there was a lot of sort of absorption from our staff and our community. But again, I think because of that hard work over the previous 4 years, once we got to that initial point of friction and then we took a breath and just settled into it, everyone came together, everyone mucked in and rolled up their sleeves and just said, well, we don't have any choice. We have to find a way to make it work. And then everyone came together and did. And that's kind of where it was really special and amazing to see our business is this, and then overnight it became that, and that was a product of everyone just doing what they had to and putting their hand up and saying, how about we start our own delivery service because we all got motorcycle licenses and we have bikes. Let's do it, and it's, and there's obviously challenges to that as well. And you got to go, I don't know whether you're insured and legalities, but like everyone's just going, fuck it. We just got to do what we got to do. You know, this is unprecedented. Let's just do what we can. And it worked, and I think we're very fortunate because there's a lot of examples where it didn't work. And there's a lot of well-known hospitality venues who haven't made it through. And there's probably more who aren't going to make it through. But we were a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work.
Can you you mentioned earlier on about some of the food delivery companies and the gouging side. I mean, what are they kind of taking from a clip size? How does that work?
30%.
Yeah, 35, 30, depending on who you sign up with.
So if I get $50 worth of takeaway from you guys, they're taking 30% from you or the person that's delivering it to me?
From us. So
From
from the items that you've ordered, it's 35% off that.
Wow.
Plus a delivery fee.
And there's a delivery. Yeah, there's a delivery fee as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was the cut.
No.
No.
The delivery fee goes to the driver.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think
That's being clipped as well, for sure.
Yeah, probably. And then there's a sign up fee.
Yeah.
Which
So you guys have to sign up.
Yeah, a lot of the big companies waive the sign up fee.
Yep.
I jumped online and tried to sign up because in that panic of what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We need to do something. Tried to sign up with a few of the big ones and pretty much got told there was no sign up fee, but you're going to have to wait a month because there's too many people.
Way too much traffic.
Up.
Yeah.
And that's when we kind of said, you know what, may as well do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And put that money into the staff. And keep
So is it
everybody
just
in
a
job.
call up?
There was a new startup that we signed up with. Well, not new. They were pretty. They were in. I think they were in Queensland already, and they just started in New South Wales. It's called Bopple.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much free for 3 months. And they don't take the huge percent that everybody else does.
Yeah.
They take a 5.8% of the order to use their platform. And yeah.
Seems a lot more fair.
Yeah. Did you have to stop the I can't even think of the word, the mechanical side of things as well? So we're looking at the food, but were people still able to go and work on their bikes?
So whilst you could have social distancing and people in the space, we continued to do so. But I think we did shut it down for a period of time when it was just takeaway and then you couldn't do anything on site. So that's when we shut it down. So originally we went down from 4 bays to 2 bays and then limited how many people you can even, because we have a community who like to drop by and just see what's going on. And we shut that down and said you can't even do that. It's bookings only. Again, because we operate on if there's space you can use it, just drop in. And now we've started to open it back up again, but with this lingering threat of a second wave, we've started to slow it down again just in case. And
So sorry.
I think that was hard for a lot of the workshop community, like just being able to come and hang out. And it's like, okay, no, you can't stay here anymore.
Well, there's the added value of the mental health aspect.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we didn't sort of put in the business plan at the beginning as well, which is it's not just a space to work.
It's an escape.
It's an escape, or it's also an opportunity to meet people. We live in a very densely populated city. And when I first moved to Sydney, moved into an apartment block not too dissimilar to this. I didn't know any of my neighbours, right? Whereas I came from a country town where everyone knew your business. And, that has its disadvantages as well. But it's like, I'm closer physically to more people than I've ever been, but I know less people and I'm probably more disconnected. So, and that's not unique to me. That's quite a common thing. Yeah. And some people aren't comfortable knocking on the door next door and introducing themselves. And, and there's other reasons for that. But what we found was all these people had a shared passion and a shared interest. And so you started meeting people you'd never meet from different walks of life that you'd never interact with. And then these little nucleuses of friendships and camaraderie came out of that space as well. So it was hard during COVID because we were essentially taking that away.
Yeah.
And we did see that people maintained it, in appropriate ways to make sure there was still social distancing, which was great to see it still live outside of the physical space. But that was hard as well because you were taking that core element of their social interaction away.
So I'm a mechanic by trade. I'm fascinated by this workshop idea, right? So how does it work? Do you just ride your bike in and just grab a hoist and just start spannering? Like, do you have toolboxes there? Like, how does it work?
So we have
does it
bays.
generate gross, the workshop? Like,
it does. So now it's taken a while to get to a point where it's breaking even and then making a little bit of revenue.
Yeah.
I think we've underpriced it historically, so we've still been tweaking that to get it right. And I think the thing that I undervalued was the access. I was like, well, I can't make it too expensive because it needs to be accessible. But the reality is, if you don't come to Rising Sun, you have to then go use a mechanic, and that's going to be $120 an hour. So there is no competition. There is no other option. So I don't need to price it as a giveaway. But essentially, you get access to a hoist, you get access to a full kit of tools. We've got all the specialty tools as well. There is a legal process you need to go through to become a member. So we do induct you.
I was going to ask that, yeah.
We take you through safe operating procedures to make sure you know how to use those tools. I can't give away all of our secrets because there was a lot of legal hurdles we had to jump through in order to make the space open.
We're not recording, mate. We're just very open.
It's just casual convo.
But once we ticked those boxes, what was surprisingly... So at the beginning when we were doing the crowdfunding, I had every expert come up to me. Remember at Throttle Roll and all these, experts, backyard builders come up going, oh, mate, you're never going to get insurance for that. Good fucking luck. Like, no, I've already got the insurance. That's the easy part.
Well, the amount of people that told us that it wouldn't work, and it, like Dion for one, who was my old boss before I left Single O, kind of laughed at me.
Negative Nancy?
Yeah. No, he thought it was a great idea. He just didn't think it was going to work.
Yeah.
And he's a great supporter of what we do now. Like, he's there all the time, loves it.
Do you remind him of that conversation?
Actually, he was there yesterday, and I reminded him of that conversation.
Brilliant.
But he told me it was just a life lesson, and he said that just to make me work harder to make it happen.
Oh, nice spin. Yeah.
Thanks.
Nice recovery.
Thanks, mate.
So is there a theme to the workshop?
As in a style of bike? No. So we've been very cognizant to be as agnostic as possible.
There's no Ducatis in there, mate.
No, there are Ducatis.
There was one in there today.
Yeah, take that, John.
I stand corrected.
We've got a member who has a Panigale V4 who works on it in there.
Oh, nice.
So we've got everything from high-end performance bikes down to vintage motocross.
I'm a bit scared of just a Civ working on a 200 horsepower Ducati, though. I suppose it's his own bike, so...
This is the interesting thing, right?
Go for gold, champ. Like I send my bike to a specialist. Like I'm specialised in cars.
Yep.
I'm not specialised in motorbikes, so I don't try and work on my own bike.
Yeah.
That, and I'm a lazy fuck.
We're quick to remind people that you shouldn't expect to do more than what you're capable of, but you're capable of far more than you think you are.
Yeah,
right. So if someone walks in and says, "I don't know how to loosen a bolt, but I want to do a full rebuild on my Panigale V4." We're probably going to go,
Ease
maybe
up,
not,
champ.
maybe not. Let's start the basics.
Roll back on the throttle.
Let's show you how to just like check everything first, right? So and we're always quick as well to point people to experts, but it's no different to having access to that space or tools or to be able to tinker and to be able to learn. And I think you don't know what your limits are until you test them. Equally, I grew up being surrounded by consequence. If you're going to undo that bolt, you need to deal with the consequences of what happens after that. Yeah. Right now, I think in the modern age, maybe people aren't as generally speaking, I think the world's a bit more litigious, and people are quick to pass the buck and say, well, who's responsible for this? But equally, I think the way that we've structured the workshop, we kind of price those people out. It's like, oh, you're going to pay a membership first? Yes. Okay. Well, most people who aren't going to take some accountability or responsibility, and, knock on wood, we haven't had an issue in the 4 years of operating. Everyone knows that they're responsible for whatever they do. Yeah. And our guys are there to check and make sure they've done their wheel nuts up properly, and no one's going to have their bike fall apart when they ride off. Yeah. But equally, it's just a really interesting thing because you're right. It is interesting to think that you've got civilians in there dealing with some high power motorcycles. Yeah. But they're probably doing it more safe than if they were doing it home anyway.
100%. Yeah.
Right? So,
what's really cool from an experience side is you do walk in, and you've got the workshop there, but then you go upstairs, you've got the restaurant, and you could almost be in two different venues. And you do have this kind of you have workshop atmospherics, right? So you've got all the tools there, you've got men and women in overalls, bikes and all that, but then you go upstairs and it's just immaculate.
So you can't see into the workshop from the...
You can kind of look over from memory, but
can you hear it? Because that'll be bad.
You can
It's
hear
in
it.
a workshop. Fuck.
You know what? It's not as bad as what you think it is.
mate, you put tunes on. Just have the tunes on.
I don't know what workshop you're in, but you can't hear a lot of stuff in this one.
We work on Italian cars, so there's lots of swearing.
Built with passion, not precision, right?
Mate.
That's why they don't work.
That's why they look good.
That's why I got a job.
How many alphas do you work on?
Well, I started with Alpha, so yeah, soft spot.
So going back to the food, because that's my area of expertise rather than the mechanics, I noticed you work with a lot of the local producers, the kind of the food side, the booze side. Yeah. Am I right in thinking the decision around that was, again, going back to supporting communities? So everything kind of goes back to that purpose of creating a community.
Yeah. We like to know where everything comes from, and most of the time we know who's making it or who's producing that wine and why they're doing it that way. And this fishmonger is getting only line catching this because it's more sustainable, and this fruit and veg comes from here because that's what's in season at the moment, and all that kind of stuff. And using the meat suppliers that are making sure they're giving back a little bit and not using caged eggs and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of becoming the norm for most places.
It also becomes the flavor of where you are, right? The only way to combat the homogenization of the dining experience is to make sure that the produce you're using is local.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to Newtown and go, I got exactly the same meal in Newtown as I did in Perth, Western Australia. It's you shouldn't, because we don't have the same produce, don't have the same climate, we don't have the same, why, but what we're seeing more and more in most communities is they've all got, they've got their Starbucks and they got this, they got that. And you can basically pick it up and rubber stamp it somewhere else, and it's exactly the same dining experience. So I think that's one of the other reasons why we've cognizantly made sure that what we're using is locally sourced.
I think that's one thing I've noticed about Australia since living here is the Aussie consumer, this is an overarching statement, seems to support the individual business owners rather than the big conglomerates. Yeah. So I don't see, outside of cities, you don't see, to your point, too many Starbucks and things, but you do see lots and lots of independent coffee owners and baristas and things. Same with a lot of the pizza places, the burger joints. Whilst you still got your Maccas and your Hungry Jacks and stuff.
Well, Newtown's one of the only places in Australia where a Macca's failed.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, they opened a McDonald's in Newtown and it failed. Yeah. And traditionally speaking, to get a McDonald's franchise was pretty much a guarantee of you doing all right.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that business model. Yet in Newtown it did. And Newtown's one of the last bastions of independence, I think. You'll see for a while they've had these frozen yogurt joints trying to creep down King Street, and they'd open.
Yeah, they're all gone.
And then they close. Another one would come in and then it'd close because people just go, fuck off, we don't want you here. If I wanted that, I'd go down the road to Broadway. Why do we want that in Newtown? So
I did notice that, and I think to congratulate you guys as well on 4 years, because I think in Newtown that would be 20 years in dog years, right? So because there is so much choice, so to be still cruising around in 4 years, I think that's awesome. So well done.
We're super grateful and stoked, and I think it also speaks to what Newtown's about. You look around, you see Clem's Chicken, right? Clem's Chicken's been there for 20 something years. And then like people wear the t-shirts, they're not going anywhere. And like we step back and go, wait a second, it's a chicken shop. Like it's just a chicken shop. Where else do you go where people wear a t-shirt of the chicken shop?
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
cool.
only in Newtown.
Yeah.
Right. So I think once you become part of the community and you're adding value and you're contributing back to the community will equally look after you. And I think I truly believe that's why Newtown is so unique compared to any other place I've ever been in a city. That local, yeah.
And everyone supports each other. Like we get most of the hospo places come to us for lunch before their shifts start. So you get most of the staff from Earl's or Jacoby's, Continental, Mary's, Clem's, they all come in and have their feed before they go to work. Or they've just finished a shift and they come in and have something. And like I think that's when I knew. I was like, okay, we've kind of made it in the area because we've got the support of everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's just nice. Like when we go
It's
to
an amazing gesture.
yeah, we go to those venues as well. Like we went to Fortunate Son last night for a drink just to catch up, and like you support them, they come in as well, and everyone kind of looks after each other as well. So it's like, yeah, I'll give you like a little bit of a discount when you come in, and we'll give you a discount, and
Local perks.
yeah.
So on that then, so running a restaurant, you know, it's hard work. It's, you know, long days.
Yeah.
Probably 24/7 sometimes when you're getting things up and running, getting momentum. Like what does success look like when you run a restaurant or a coffee shop? Or for you guys, what does success look like with Rising Sun?
I'm curious to hear your answer, Dan.
I love how we're all looking at you first as well on purpose.
Well, yes, at the beginning it was a lot of hours, not just serving customers, because we were there, and Nick and Helena and Demi and all, like a lot of our members were there to build the place.
We literally bootstrapped it,
Yeah.
right? Like you've seen the space and how big it is to open a venue of that size with no experience. Like we'd run a pop-up, right?
Yeah.
No experience running a venue of that size, to fit out a venue of that size. Helena probably had the most experience of anyone because she was an architect, but she was working for someone else anyway.
Yeah.
So we literally bootstrapped it. Like everything in that place we physically built ourselves. The tables, we went to Bunnings and bought workhorses and then welded them together as the legs because they were Rising Sun red. And then we cut some plywood and then
I remember that phone
plywood.
call.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm at Bunnings. There's some red sawhorses. Should I buy them? And, yep, let's do it.
Like the balustrading, I'd done a welding course, but I was by no means an expert boilermaker, but I got pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And so like all the balustrading, because we couldn't afford to pay someone to do it, I bought the raw steel.
Yeah.
I welded it up, and then Nick got on there with the patina and acid because he knew someone and he learned from them on the fly. And so like we literally built that entire place ourselves.
Built all the bars,
Built all the bars.
the ramps, the stairs we paid for.
Yep.
There's an awesome shot of Adrian sandblasting some of the timber upstairs. And then probably my favorite photo is the one that Helena took of Katina sitting on the stairs,
yeah.
probably thinking, what the fuck are these guys doing?
Yeah.
They've bitten off more than they can chew. So like on the old stairs that were there, just like looking out at the building, and that's now on the stair out, like on the wall as you go up the stairs. Yeah, it's a really cool shot. If anyone's ever in the building, have a look.
So for me, your answer there, it sounds like you've already made it, because you had a nice little glint in the eye, you're smiling. So it sounds like, and the thing is, success is defined from different people, right? But just looking at you, remancing on that, you know, you're living the dream.
We've come a long way. Success for me, I think, would be helping our staff do the same thing as what we've done. So if I can get someone to the point that they're like, I want to open my own venue, first I would probably do what my old boss would said to me. Like, why the fuck do you want to do that? You're not going to make any money. You're going to work your ass off. But helping someone to get to that point would be amazing. Like training, we've got a couple of new staff at the moment, and yeah, it's really hard, and they don't know what they're doing, and you're teaching them on the fly, and we had a busy day today and I had 2 pretty green staff on, but you're teaching them skills and then and getting into a next step, which is great. And then if someone comes to us and says, "Hey, I want to move on because I'm gonna get this job because I'm gonna learn more," it's like, great. Don't feel bad that you're leaving us. We've helped you get to that next step, which is what's happened to me from when I was 16. Like, started working pretty much washing glasses in a family-run business, moving up to being food and beverage manager by the time I was 18, and looking after events that were 400, 500 people. And it was great. But then I got to the point where I want to be more interactive with the customer, and I'd end up getting back into cafes. And yeah, if I can help people do that, it'd be great. So it's not always a dollar figure. I think people think you open a cafe or a restaurant to make money. You're not going to make money.
I think one of my learnings in the last few months have been how lean the hospitality, business is in terms of cash flow and things. There's a great podcast called Deep in the Weeds by Anthony Hucks. They call him Hucks. Hucks. Great pod. I've really enjoyed it, and I've actually learned a lot through the industry and just through different restaurant owners, SOMs, all that kind of stuff. But one of my takes has been, you're not awash with cash.
No.
Margins are slim.
Yeah.
And then consumer behaviors have a serious negative impact when they're allowed to flourish. The example would be that we have repositioned our dinners, and we're going to see how long we can do this for, where we've gone to pre-bought tickets. So it's a set menu, it's ticketed. You turn up on the night, and whatever the menu is what the menu is, and we'll cater to dietaries, but that's it. And from an operating model perspective, it's fantastic because you know exactly how many you're getting. You've got a buffer for people who want to do walk-ins, and you go, well, I can take 5 walk-ins, whatever, right? You know how many staff you need for the night, so you don't have staff standing around waiting for people to walk in maybe, and if they don't, you still got to pay them for 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So, you're managing your wage costs and you got no wastage. And it's and that works, right? And those at the price point we're talking about, that works. But when you have, but whereas before COVID, we'd have some dinner services where you'd probably have, 2 or 3 dinner services a week where 2 were like consistent and standard. 1 might be killer, and then 1 will be fucking shit. And that fucking shit one would wash out any of the profit you probably make for the rest of the week.
Really?
Right? Because you are, you're talking about 5, 6, 7% margin if you're lucky in some instances in this industry. Like, it is a numbers game, and it's super tight. So if you get into hospitality to become rich, until you get to a certain scale, like the Rockpool Group or something, where you've got dozens of venues, you're not going to be rich.
Probably not the best.
Probably not the best example now,
example,
right?
Yeah.
Right, but it's at scale.
Yeah.
The 6% then adds up, right? But
I kind of like this new ticketing thing or the booking and almost that pre-auth, because there's a few things. You don't book a flight and not turn up to the flight. You don't book a cinema ticket. Well, it depends if you're going gold class or something. But normally when there's a ticket to something, you pay for it and you go.
You don't buy a ticket to the footy and not show up.
Go. And I remember reading. I remember reading early on in the press where there was I think it was in Bondi. And there was a table of like 6 that just hadn't rocked up for the night. And again, if you're a really small restaurant and you're grappling with these numbers on
table like that can wipe you out.
Well, if you're only before you're only allowed 10 people in your restaurant.
Yeah,
that was the limit.
Yeah.
So if you got a table of 6 and a table of 4, that's your restaurant.
Yeah.
So if you're a 6 and you don't show up because you've booked this is the truth. This is what happens. People book more than one restaurant in case they don't get a seat. So if I've booked 3 restaurants and we're all going out for dinner for a table for 4, and we're like, I don't really want to go there. We'll go to this one, and we don't call the other 2 restaurants.
Yeah,
that's 2 restaurants that have missed out on almost half of their patrons for that sitting.
Yeah, and it's not just as easy as, but they'll just open it up, right? It's like, sure, you can open it up. It doesn't mean someone's going to walk in and take it.
Yes.
And the chances are someone walked in and wanted it, and you said, I can't, I'm full.
Yeah.
And so then you've turned away business, and then you find out they're not turning up for that sitting. Like it
infuriate you.
It's so infuriating.
Yeah.
And it's kind of where historically, and I think now is the beginning of the change. People have not appreciated the value that the hospitality industry does contribute to the fabric of society. You know, it's not just a meal.
No, it's not.
Right? If it's just a meal, go to a fucking food court or order home delivery. Like, it's not just a meal. It is an experience. It's a livelihood. People put their passion and their souls into what they're giving you, right? And then for you just to make a booking and not turn up and flippantly go, whatever, I don't care, that, you know, and you know, you can get blocked by OpenTable and then get a different email address and then set up another OpenTable account. Like, there's no accountability. There's no, and so moving into this ticketed platform, this ticketed system, I think I'm hoping more venues do it and we maintain it as a status quo post.
Yeah.
COVID.
I was going to ask if, like, the effects of COVID and how you've had to develop your business around that ticketing system, do you think the hospitality industry's changed now forever? Like, do you think, or you just said you hope that sticks on?
I think more are talking about changing it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like a critical mass thing. And the example I'd use would be, I feel like historically, in my opinion, that a lot of hospitality has been competitive at a price point. So the customer value proposition hasn't really been understood, right? And the example would be coffee. So coffee is significantly undervalued. So what you pay for a coffee is way below what the actual cost of a coffee should be if you want to factor in actually making some money on a cup.
Yeah.
And you know, using the CBD as an example, they've always been competitive on price, and they've seen volume. So they go, well, I need to do like 80 kilos a week and then I'll make money, but anything under 80 kilos, then I don't make any money, right? And it's just crazy. It's ridiculous. Having a product that is a loss leader, like that whole concept to me is just stupid. But that's how it's worked. And it's also worked across other meals. And we see that with people coming in and go, it's Asian, so it should be cheap, right? So you're selling a $20 bowl of ramen. I could go to a food court and get it for $16. So this is an expensive bowl of ramen.
Go to the food court then.
You're sitting in a food court, eating out of plastic, serving yourself, and then you still got to pay extra for the toppings anyway. So really, and actually our ramen should be like $22 or $24 a bowl. But then, you know, you start talking about, are we too expensive from an Asian food perspective?
Yeah.
So I think we need to, as an industry, introduce the concept of ticketed dinners. So we're managing our costs better. You know, because again, the other side of the coin, and there's a lot to unpack here, but then pre-COVID, there was a lot of famous restaurateurs being publicly executed because of wage theft, right? Now I do the wage theft thing because it's
could
more
do that
nuanced.
to the camera.
It's more
you.
I think it's more nuanced and complex because I think there are some bad players out there who are consciously doing it, but it is a very complex ecosystem to navigate. And once you get into how the award wage is across the different roles and functions and whatnot, it is very confusing and complex. And if you don't have the right tools and infrastructure in place, as a small business owner, it's very easy to fall out of compliance, right? But you know, so we talk about wage theft, but equally. And everyone's quick to come out and throw stones, but then they don't want to go out and pay for their meal because they go, this restaurant's expensive or this meal is expensive. And then in the same breath, go to a bar, wait 20 minutes in line to get an $18 Negroni and not bat a fucking eyelid.
It's bizarre.
And that's the
isn't
thing. You sit down and you get your bill, and then people will quickly go, the food was expensive, but not say anything about the drinks. And if you get the bill and it's 50-50 food and drinks, oh, that sounds about right. And you go, wait a second, I literally opened a bottle and poured it and paid all the taxes, like all the wet taxes, yet someone came in and prepped and created the mise en place and then designed a menu and then put it in front of you. And then all of a sudden, but that dish was expensive. I could do it. I could do that at home.
Go for it.
Fuck off. Go do it at home.
Yeah.
But the thing behind booze as well, to be fair to, like, for Michael, for example, the amount of work that goes into putting that grape juice into that bottle.
Oh no,
huge.
Totally. But no one bats an eyelid,
but
right?
no one thinks about that. It's like, it's just some wine that someone's pressed and it's gone into a bottle. Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Oh, look, it's got a fancy label. That's great.
I'll happily pay for it. And then you go create some seasonal dish with locally sourced produce, and then they go, oh, that's $2 more expensive than I think it should be.
I'm not really a big fan of complaining about the price of the meal if the meal is fantastic.
But if it's not fantastic, you'll be quick to complain about it, right?
But what if the service was amazing and the meal wasn't
Yeah,
amazing?
service is a big thing as well.
Yeah. So
service is a big thing.
I think we're big we're huge on service.
Yeah.
We're always about the service.
Yeah. I think a service can make your meal
Yeah.
10 times more enjoyable.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Not that our food's shit. I'm just saying.
No.
We're huge on the service.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be right. You
Yeah.
know, like you are going to go out and there's going to be misses.
Yeah, of course.
It can't always be hits. And that's fine. Have a constructive conversation. And I think if you were to call something out, you know, this is going in the direction exactly that you want it to. But if you call it out to someone's face,
Yeah.
as a restaurateur, we would bend over backwards to write it, whether it was to comp a meal or give you a discount or to go like genuinely give us feedback because we can't improve.
Yeah.
Like you give me a 5-star review, great. That's fantastic. How do I do anything with that? You're going to go give me a 1-star review and then give me a diatribe as to what you didn't like. Why the fuck didn't you do that to my face?
Yeah, exactly.
No one will do that.
No one will do that. Everyone's a keyboard hero.
There might be, let's say, 2% of people that might say, hey, this wasn't right.
Yep.
And what do?
It's a lot harder to offend someone to their face, you know, and just say, listen, man, that was absolutely shay.
But actually, go back to what Adrian said earlier around the soft skills, right? Because if you can, that's just having a conversation with someone and giving feedback. So how come you can be a keyboard warrior and a food critic and put it out on Trustpilot or whatever these review things are, but not say it to the person or not?
Because you have no fear of getting slapped in the fucking face.
No, but it's funny because so
not that you guys would, but I'm just saying.
So being a Brit, we're kind of very everything. How's your meal? Oh, everything's high, thank you. You know, and you sit there and you might push something around a plate for a little bit, and I think becoming over here has probably made me a little bit more assertive as a person, especially when you go out because you've got a lot of choice as well. And so I will kind of always say, actually, no, it was great, or no, probably wouldn't order it again, and I probably would have that conversation.
Any other industry, you'd have that conversation.
Yeah.
If a builder came and did something in your house,
100%.
They're like, so you're happy? It's like, no, I'm not happy. The tiles aren't straight, or you haven't, the carpet's lifting up, or you missed a spot, you didn't paint it properly. Okay, no worries, I'll fix it. Thank you, done.
Yeah.
End of story. Yeah.
Well, we got the same thing in
How
our
was the service
industry.
on your car? Oh, actually, not that good. It was still making the same noise when I drove it away, or the brakes aren't working. It's like, oh, fuck, we better fix that. You know? But yet, for some reason,
If the
when
brakes
it comes
aren't
to
working,
food,
you have to fix that.
Yeah. Oh, well, hopefully, they don't come back. No.
How's the fit on your new suit? Like, actually, I don't quite like this. Can you fix it? Yep, no worries.
Well, stop eating like
when
a
it
bastard.
when it comes to a meal, everything's fine.
So
this place was shit. 1
Yeah.
star. Do not go there. I don't like the person who blah 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 blah. Like,
So let's talk about the social media piece, right? Because I noticed on your website you actually say, hey, make sure you tag us in your food, add your photos, which I love. And you'll see a cracking picture of your steak and chips and Caesar salad that I took.
nice, thank you.
Oh, it was delicious. It was textbook, actually. It was really, really good.
Which we don't do anymore.
Oh, you're joking. Okay,
It's seasonal.
This is now finished. But I like the fact you engage that, and obviously you're cognizant of that, and it's a great way to promo. How important is social media to the hospital, to your restaurants, to the the coffee side of things, to the motorbike side?
In this day and age, I think it's huge, but you don't always get.
I think it's
what you want.
overstated.
Yeah,
I think it's overstated.
You get the keyboard warriors. You get everyone that thinks that they're a food blogger.
Yeah.
Sorry, not everyone that thinks they're a food blogger, because there's a lot of food bloggers. Everyone thinks they're a food critic, and maybe they're not that great.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we don't like our customers. It's just say it to our face.
Yeah,
I get it.
I think it's overstated. Like it's, they used to say today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip paper.
Yeah.
So literally, it's like right now's post is irrelevant 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And so I personally have been on a big journey since opening this business, because at the beginning I was straight into being combative with anyone who wasn't constructive.
Yeah.
And I gave it more weight than I should have.
Yeah.
And I'd lose a lot of sleep, and you go, fuck, I've got another 2-star review. What the fuck do these guys know? Blah, blah, blah. And, and over time, now we're at 1,000 reviews on Google, and you give me 1 star, I can give 2 shits. Like, fuck off, whatever. Anyone's got half a brain, they can go through and see. More often than not, we're getting really good reviews, and the ones that actually articulate why they're giving us a good review actually tell the story. Having said that, there is a lot of value of people using social media to share to their network where they're going, what they're doing. There's definitely value that, and we invest a lot of time and money into our content. But I do think it's overstated. I think I'm hoping through COVID, one of the outcomes might be that the social influencer loses a little bit of traction, because I think their revenue streams are drying up at the moment.
Yep.
So I think they're going to have to reevaluate the resilience of their line of work. Again, I got no beefs. That's fine if you want to do that, and I know people who do it. But equally, it's like I think some people do it well, and other people are just the amount of emails or DMs we've gotten. But hey, will you give me a free meal to come in and post about? It's like no,
We've never done any of that.
Yeah.
well, we won't do it.
That's going to be awkward when we ask for a free meal.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, I just brought you a nice bottle of wine.
You did, yeah. we're square. No, it's funny because I think one of my...
I'll send you the bill.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I'll probably get it from Michael in all fairness. Yeah, I hope that one of my kind of takes and look, I'm as bad as everyone else. I love taking a picture of my food. I'm a very visual person, and sharing it and all that. But I hope that one of the takeouts of COVID is we kind of breathe in the experience a bit more. We don't take so much time to do the check-in, all of that, and we actually just take time just to
be present.
To taste the food, to taste the wine, to taste the coffee, to engage the front of house, have the experience. Because I think you're right. I think that's going to be so much more of it now. And I don't know, I'm quite keen to hear your thoughts on this. If you think the price of a cup of coffee and the price of food will increase on the back of this, because I don't think there is going to be a lot. I mean, you go to the CBD now, I was chatting to one of the coffee shops and they used to do like 800 cups a day, and I think they did like 10, Yeah. So that's not sustainable long term. So are we going to see that experience increase?
Yeah.
And then
it's not about jacking prices disproportionately, right? But I think it's about appropriately valuing what you do and understanding the market. And I think and you got to have confidence in your product, and that's hard. Like in this industry, it's very, it's driven around what your customer base think. Like it's always about what you think and how you react and what you want. So it's really hard to back yourself and go, actually, this dish is worth this, right? But it is a numbers game. So I think, I don't know, I hope so. I hope that, and we still struggle with it. I have very, very robust conversations with my business partners around pricing because I'm the finance guy, right? I come from corporate, and analytics is my bread and butter. So when I look at the numbers, but they're always quick to call me out and say, but the numbers are always disconnected from the experience. And so you got to find some middle ground where you can make sure that you can keep the doors open and make a living, and ideally be profitable, but equally accessible. I always come back to the whole, you could increase your prices by 10% and you'd need to lose 17% of your customers to end up at exactly the same point financially, right? Now, that's a big call, right? But numerically, that's how it works. So do you want to serve more customers, or do you want to serve the right customers? And I think it's still somewhere in between there. But that doesn't answer your question. I hope so. I hope prices do get more reflective of the value that the hospitality industry drive. And the only way that's going to happen is by hospitality backing itself. Because if everyone does it and we stop competing on price and we start competing on the experience, which comes back to the mindfulness. If you sat down and said to me, Adrian, I went and had dinner at this place and the service was amazing and the ambiance was great and this is what they did, and you talked me through it, I'm more likely to want to go there as opposed to looking at an Instagram post where you go, this place is awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
A photo does say 1,000 words, but you actually saying some words to me and selling me on the experience.
Yeah.
And as a salesperson, you know that, right?
Yeah.
You still need to sell the product on top of a great brochure.
Yeah.
So I think if people spend more time being mindful and experiencing what they're experiencing, and then they talk about it, that's probably going to have more of an impact than a great photo. And equally, I think hospitality, we need to back ourselves to charge appropriately. Yeah. It's not about price gouging. It's just about charging appropriately and going, actually, in order for me to make my 6% margin on every single dish. So that's the only way it works. If you do loss leaders, that means then you got to take a loss on one dish, and then you got to do another dish that's overpriced, and then you got to hope that it evens out in every single order. Like mathematically, that's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do that, and they don't. And that's why all these big names are going under at the moment, because they've been doing it for years, and they just make it work.
Stabilize.
I think we've seen with the restrictions and people not coming out, and then they're all allowed out. Everyone's allowed out again to come and dine. I think we saw people enjoying the atmosphere,
Yeah.
the
Better quality.
of the shop, and being
They're
able
more
to be there.
appreciative. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
more appreciative of the opportunity to be able to actually go and do
Yeah.
that.
Mm.
And it was kind of nice. It was nice seeing that. And it's still like even now, like you get the regulars that are like, it's been amazing sitting in here again. I'm like, this is great. That's why we built this place for you to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Coming back to success, that's what it is for me. Being able to sit in there or work on my own bike in the workshop or eat a meal and enjoy a glass of wine and have a chat. Like sitting on table 3 for me is the bee's knees.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get into this industry to make money, but to be able to sit there and go, we built this and we built a community to help us build this and we employ 20, 25 people and we've come together and survived COVID. It's that for me is success. And game theory comes in. It's not about winning. It's about just continuing to play. So if we can keep the shop open for the tenure of our lease and, you know, I've got pipe dreams of one day being able to buy the property so we don't have a lease and we can just have it run forever. That'd be amazing. You know, and seeing our kids grow up and, you know, Dan's son Archie is going to be the next world barista champion. He's 7.
He's been 8.
8.
He's been in there on Thursday mornings with me. So we have an early morning. We go to work and he comes and seasons the coffee machine with me and gets everything ready. There's a cool little clip on my Instagram. But yeah, he's gone from being like when he was 2 and 3, he'd jump on a milk crate and like pour some coffees with me. And now doesn't need the milk crate and can reach the coffee machine and use the grinder and use the machine. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's success. I think being able to that experience and to be present and to take it all in. That's money can't buy that.
So how did it work with you guys winning a hat? I saw 2019.
Yeah, it was
How did that feel?
2 years in a row now.
2 years in
2
a
years in a
row.
row?
Yeah, we've kept the hat.
Congratulations.
Well, you can't.
We'll see.
They give it to you again.
Yeah.
How does it come about? Do you apply for a hat?
No,
What happens?
So the Good Food Guide.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Michelin stars for Australia.
Yeah.
So you get reviewed. You don't get told. You're going to get told after.
Oh, really? So you have no idea?
No idea.
Keeps it authentic. Keeps it real.
There is little tells that kind of like this person's booked and they might have changed their booking and they want to see how you deal with that and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes you know who the reviewers are, but there's a lot of reviewers out there.
Yeah.
So you'll be very fortunate if you get the same person review you. So
I review you several times.
Yeah,
right?
you get. I think it's 3 to 4 reviews. So they'll come in, they'll have dinner, or they'll have breakfast or lunch, whatever.
Which is good because you can have a bad session, and you still get a chance to make up for it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just the one and done.
Yeah. I want to see the consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes up against. It's a point system. To get one hat, you have to score 15 or higher out of 20.
They calibrate.
Yeah.
So all the reviewers get together and they go through all of them to make sure that they're all in calibration as well.
So like a jury almost.
Yeah.
Right.
I think our first year we got 14.5, so we were like half a point off a hat.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I never really wanted to be a hatted restaurant.
Yeah.
Because it comes with other things. The caliber of customer and what they expect before they get there. Because there is those customers that just buy that book and go, that's a hatted restaurant, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
And they're expecting something already. I kind of want people to come in and go, not expecting anything, and wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. So the hat, it's not only about food. It's about service, everything.
Well, they've
Ambience.
They've recently changed. It used to be
metrics,
purely about food and drink.
Yeah.
And service, but they've changed that recently. It's about the experience and the venue and what the extras are.
Yeah.
So for us, the workshop and everything else there. But yeah, it was a huge shock, and Nick and I went to Melbourne for the first time we got it for the awards. We even to the point where we're sitting at the table with the owners of Sean's Panorama next to us and like icebergs and stuff like that. And we're like, wow, we're in this room with all these people who are amazing hospo people.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're not going to get an award. We're just here because we're the underdogs, and there might be a new new and up and coming restaurant kind of thing. All the one hat restaurants don't actually get to go on stage. But we made a lot of noise when we got our one hat, and our name came up for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really awesome feeling.
Yeah.
And then to get it again the year after. Yeah. So hopefully with COVID and everything else that's going on, we keep that hat.
Yeah. So you said a lot comes with it. What do you mean by that?
It's more I think upholding that service, which we do anyway, but it's just that extra cloud that's over your head.
It's another layer. You start going, is this hat worthy?
Yeah.
Whereas before, if you unpack it, you got the hat because you didn't think that way in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's just this monkey's on your back all of a sudden. It's like, is this going to be worthy? And so particularly when it came to COVID, it's like now we're doing home delivery and like is that
we actually got reviewed on our takeaway.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
He read it on the way here.
Please share.
Not like an official. Oh, it was in the Good Food Guide. Yeah. In the magazine, the paper that comes out. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
So do you physically
like recently?
No, it was a while ago.
But as part of COVID or
yeah.
Oh
it
wow.
It was before we changed our packaging.
Oh, it was in the old packaging.
Yeah. But it was mentioned that we changed our packaging. And all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hey, we did it very quickly. We used what we got. We were very resourceful.
There's more stuff coming. It's all
exactly.
Good. It's going to change. It's going to be even better.
Yeah.
So with the hat, do you actually get a physical hat?
No, that'd be great if we did.
Mate, ruined it.
It's a little.
I genuinely thought you got a hat.
I think it's A3. Yeah. A3 little
Piece of paper.
Piece of paper.
No hat.
It's got gold on it. It's a gold hat on the paper.
Okay, that's cool.
It's got our name on it.
I suppose it's
signed by Miffy Rigby.
Yeah, nice.
So what is next then for Rising Sun Workshop? So you mentioned about the takeaway stuff. Are you going to keep that? I've done a few wine tasting events at your place. It's always an amazing experience. Are you going to try and
I would love to do
bring that back?
House party again.
So we had a schedule
Yeah.
pre-coronavirus, and we had another house party scheduled. We had heaps of events scheduled, and
Literally the week that everything got closed, all the borders got closed, Beck and I were meant to go down to South Australia and do a little bit of vintage with all the winemakers that we use. Michael from Vanguardist and Brendan from BK Wines.
Oh, they did a cracking Riesling, didn't they?
Yeah. And the boys from Yeti and the Coconut and Sigurd and all the ones that we support and use in the shop. And yeah, we kind of were like, oh no, we're still coming. It's okay. Are you guys okay if we come? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. You guys, everyone's healthy and whatever. Yep. And then Beck and I were like, nah, we're not going anywhere because all the restrictions started happening and it
all shut down.
Just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
So everything got put on hold and yeah, we're still waiting. But as soon as we're allowed to have 150 people in that venue, doing a big wine party.
I think for now it's just a holding pattern. I think we just need to get through this pandemic and try and find out what normal is again. And hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, there is some kind of vaccine in the near future, and then the world can start opening up again, and then we'll be back into it. But I think in the meantime, we've just got to be as responsible and safe as possible, whilst also staying open and keeping the lights on and keeping people employed. And we're still redesigning the menu and keeping that all going. But it's really hard to plan ahead when what's happening in Victoria right now. There's a real risk that could happen here as well, right? So we need to.
Yeah, you got to like every couple of days. Beck and I jump on the websites and go, what's the new rule? Yep. So you need to have marshals now, like a hygiene marshal in your venue all the time.
Are you wearing the fluoro? Are you the hygiene marshal?
We actually don't have the fluoros. We've got awesome stickers that Gemma's designed.
Nice.
I took it off before I got here.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's every day is something new. So who knows? Next week might be something new again, and I don't know. Maybe we'll be back to takeaway only.
But we are going to keep the takeaway. We are. So as part of this process, we did submit for some grants to try and diversify our business, and got 100% strike rate, 2 from 2. I got one for the workshop and one for the restaurant. And so the workshop one, we're working on building out a content series around DIY. And so back in the pop-up, I shot a how-to video and never looked at it again, and it's got 60,000 views on YouTube. Not a lot, but it's still, a lot for me.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And so we're going to start building that content schedule out within the workshop and involve members in that as well, and try and, document that knowledge that we have. And then on the restaurant side, the grant is to go towards our takeaway offering and enhancing that. So we're looking at proper vac packing and nice packaging. So it's almost like a pick and pack kind of product. And who knows, maybe we could then go outside of the venue and do that through other kind of distribution avenues. And pre-COVID, we didn't do takeaway because we wanted people to experience it. COVID came along and takeaway was all we could do. And then we have come to sort of the realization that actually if we do it right, we can do both. It doesn't impact service, and it potentially increases our revenue as well. So theoretically, we'll see.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of the immediate short-term, medium-term, what's next, what we're doing. And then hopefully we can open back up and get back into our parties, because I think they're the bee's knees.
Well, I think it just encapsulates everything that you have spoken about today in terms of you're bringing the community together. I mean, again, the first one tasting we went to, like, you knew everybody in the room, everybody knew you.
Yeah.
There was a real mixed group of people there, but everyone was just having a good time. They were there for the experience. So I think you've created something really, really special with Rising Sun Workshop. I'd love to see, and maybe we'll get you back in a year's time, like see how you're going and if it would work somewhere else. I think Newtown, I think you're right, it's a very different place and it works really, really well there. But it's certainly been amazing. Jens, thank you very much for coming along. Nice. How do people find out about Rising Sun Workshop? Have we got Instagram, websites?
RisingSunWorkshop.com.
Yep.
We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, but the website primarily is where you can get all the up-to-date info.
Or just come to Newtown.
Or come down to 1C Waitley Street.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And you'll probably see me there with my first ever ramen.
You can go on the back of my bike.
Okay. I'll walk. Awesome. Thank you, gents. Have a good one.
Us.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.